Hey there, Mr. Reddit here. Welcome back to another episode of r/entitled parent stories. Our first story we'll be reading today. If you want privacy, then move somewhere else, Karen. After that, father doesn't understand why he cannot attend his son's doctor's appointment. His son was 30. And after that, am I the jerk for ending my daughter's birthday dinner because she called me and my wife unethical? Now for every thumbs up this video gets, one Karen has to stop wearing Live Laugh Love shirts. But I love wearing these. So please smash that like button. And if you're new, subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit every single day. If you want privacy, then move somewhere else, Karen. I live in an apartment with 3 bedrooms, 1 large room, a smaller room, and a room which they marketed as a bedroom, but is essentially a hyped up broom closet that barely fits a 1-person bed. I use the large room as a bedroom and the second biggest room as an office for my work, which is mostly done online even before lockdown, so I can't do without it, and the smallest room is not big enough to house my setup and files, and unless I massively downsize my bed, it doesn't fit in my room either, hence the office. The smallest room is set up as a guest room with a single bed, wall-mounted TV, and a small closet. It's cramped, but given it is usually just used for a few days by my cousins and friends, it works fine. The rest of the place is rather average. Normal apartment, small living room with a kitchen and a bathroom. My mom made a series of very dumb financial decisions since my dad passed 3 years ago, and with her losing her job due to lockdown, she had to sell her house to pay several debts. Let me be clear that the money she had could have had her living comfortably for the rest of her life without ever having to work again. She called me one day, explained the situation, and after a long argument, I relented and allowed her to move in with me until she got back on her feet, which I was angry about because I was on the brink of moving in with my girlfriend, and this put that plan on hold for the foreseeable future. Well, since she moved in, it has been horrible. She complains every day about the smallest things. It only got somewhat better when she finally got a job, so she's out of the house for several hours. It honestly feels like I live with my parent, when in reality, she lives with me. I obviously put her in the guest room, and that has since been her primary aim for complaining. Not a day goes by where she does not complain about wanting the office as her room, as it's bigger. Obviously, that's not happening. Yesterday, she had a friend over. Afterwards, we got in another argument where she started yelling at me for not giving her any privacy because I dared to go into my own kitchen to make a sandwich while she had her friend over. I finally lost my crap and said what it says in the title along with some choice words, and I have the mind to kick her out at this point, even knowing she's got nowhere to go. She has made a scene about it towards her siblings and other family who have since reached out to me to tell me how much of an ungrateful jerk I am to talk to my mom like that. So I'm here for outside judgment. Well, what do you think? Is OP the jerk or is their mom? Please let us know. You never want to live with a Karen. Just ask Reddit boy over here. Father doesn't understand why he cannot attend his son's doctor's appointment. His son was 30. I work at a hospital as a desk lady. This man came in with a younger man and approached my desk. If some of you don't know, many hospitals have restrictions nowadays. There are certain types of appointments where a patient can have a guest with them, but I would say about 80% of appointments are restricted so that it has to be just the patient. Unless, of course, the patient is a minor, cannot speak English, or is not of sound mind, has a disability that restricts their ability to communicate. Me. Hi, how can I help you today? Father. I'm here for a doctor's appointment. Me. All right, can I have a name, please? Yes, my son's name is Name. He's here to see Dr. Name for this department. Me. It's for your son? How old is he? Father. He's 30. Me. He's 30? I'm sorry, sir, but I can't allow you to go back with him. This kind of appointment doesn't allow guests with a patient. But my son doesn't know what to tell the doctor. Oh, I see. He doesn't speak English? What? Of course he speaks English. Me. Oh, I see. Does he have a disability, sir? Even with his mask on, I can see the father's face twist into a scowl. Please note that this entire time the son has not spoken a word. He's just stared at me this whole time. Father. Excuse me? No, there's nothing wrong with him. Me. Well then, I'm sorry, sir, but due to the recent circumstances, I cannot allow you to go back with your son. He has to go by himself. But he doesn't know what to tell the doctor. He doesn't even know where the office is. Me. I can walk him to the office, sir. You'd have to tell him what to say now. In the meantime, I'll need to check you in. Can I have a name again, please? Finally, the son mumbles his name, but the father cuts him off to say it very loudly. I get him signed in. The father takes a few minutes to talk to the son, and I step out from behind the desk to walk him to the department. When I get back to my desk, the father is still standing there. Me. Hello, sir. Do you need anything else? No, I'm waiting for my son. Me. I see, sir. In that case, I'm going to have to ask you to wait in your car. We also have restrictions as to who can be in the waiting area. Well then, how will I know when my son is done? Me. He'd have to call you. Does he have his phone on him? The father didn't answer me. He turned around and walked back out. About 20 minutes later, he came back in. Father. Is my son done yet? Me. Did he call you? No. Then he's probably not done. But how do you know? Can't you call and ask where he is, or how long the appointment will take? Me. No, I cannot do that, sir. I definitely could, but I had no intentions of entertaining him when I had other people to help. Father. There's really nothing you can do? There's always something that can be done. This is ridiculous. Me. There's nothing I can do. I already took him down there. All you can do is wait for him to finish the appointment. The father finally left. About another 15 minutes, he rushed back in right past my desk. Me. Excuse me, sir. Where are you going? To pick up my son. He called and said he's done with his appointment. I'm going to go get him. Me. Sir, you cannot go back to the office. Even if I let you, you would be escorted right back out. You need to leave the hospital and go back to your car. We have very strict restrictions due to what's going on. Father. But what if he doesn't know how to get back? He'll get lost. Me. Then he can ask one of the nurses to bring him back. I cannot allow you to go back there. It's not my decision. I did not make these rules. Please leave, sir. So finally, the son came back out, being escorted by a nurse. The father came back in one more time. Me, wishing that I could get away with yelling at someone, even just once. Yes, sir. How can I help you? Father. I just wanted to make sure I get your name. Your behavior has been so shameful, and I will be filing a complaint against you. I don't know how you people can sleep at night, being so heartless and cruel. Me. All right, sir. Have a good day. And finally, he left for good. I was ready to start shouting at him to get out. I heard later from one of the nurses that he called the desk down there asking if he could come in. Of course, since the son was 30, spoke English, and was of sound mind and had no record of disabilities that limited his communication, the answer was no. And of course, he flipped out at the nurse too, apparently calling her heartless for making his son go to the appointment alone. He apparently told her that he always comes in with his son and he's never been stopped before, so he should be allowed to come in again. What do you think? Should the dad have been allowed to go back with the son or not? Please let us know. Helicopter parents much? Am I the jerk for ending my daughter's birthday dinner because she called me and my wife unethical? I, 61, male, had been married to my wife, 31, female, for 3 years. Around summertime 2020, she started saying that she had for the longest time thought she would be okay as a child-free person, but she's been feeling this unbearable itch to have a kid that she can call her own. She discovered that she was pregnant 2 months ago and was so excited she cried. My daughter, 29, female, and I have birthdays 1 week apart, so we invited her over to a joint birthday dinner at our house. We saw it as a good chance to break the news that she was going to have a new half-sibling. When my daughter and her soon-to-be husband had taken their seats, I broke the news to them. An awkward silence descended, and my daughter crossed her arms across her chest and said, wow, I can't be anything other than shocked right now. Her boyfriend interjected an awkward congratulations. My wife was really upset and asked my daughter to elaborate as to why it was too much to just be happy for us. My daughter said, Dad, you know you're not 31 anymore. God, you barely chased me and my brother around. Are you going to do that now? I mean, have you thought about graduations? I'm sure the wedding age will be 35 2 decades from now. When her boyfriend tried to interject, her voice rose and said, No, I can't not feel bad for my half-sibling. I'm going to get attached and then have to deal with a college kid being depressed that their friends' dads are young. She started crying and called both of us unethical as heck for doing this. She excused herself to the bathroom and my wife looked extremely upset. I realized I couldn't sit through a dinner after she insulted the both of us when my wife was already stressed from her pregnancy because gestational diabetes runs in her family. When my daughter came back and said we could talk about something else, I said, I think it's better if we end the dinner then. She got mad and said she cannot believe I'm kicking her out for speaking her mind. She protested and said she wanted to stay and celebrate our birthdays, but I insisted that she leave. She said thanks for ruining the night and her birthday next week. Am I the jerk for ending birthday celebrations for the both of us because a lot of things that were said were offensive and too emotionally charged? Her boyfriend seemed relieved. Well, what do you think? Is OP the jerk or is his daughter? Please let us know. Ooh, I can't wait to see what our audience thinks about this one. You won't pay $100 for a new hard drive? Okay, enjoy paying $22,000 for my time to deal with the problem. I had a job where I had a computer which was, incidentally, also the web server for a very important internal web application. I thought this was really stupid that it wasn't in a server room being managed by IT, but for some weird reason, they wouldn't do it. I didn't use this application or have anything to do with it, but it took up a large chunk of the hard drive and made it slow. I didn't even know what it was on the hard drive, so there was a bunch of old development software I could never remove for fear of harming the application. I was also not permitted to turn the machine off or even sign out nights or weekends, so it would be running whenever anyone needed the application. I had to just lock the screen and leave it. This application was apparently something developed by my department before I joined the company, and everyone involved with it was no longer there, and nobody really knew anything about how it worked other than that this machine had to be running and signed in, and it wasn't developed in our normal system and wasn't in our code repository. By the end of my time with the company, they had had such turnover that I was literally the only person in the department who knew it was even there. I was a web developer, and I required a vast amount of disk space for my work, for reasons mostly relating to how moronic management was about process. I had to keep 3 complete copies of everything the company ever developed. I often ran out of disk space. I had to use increasingly desperate measures to deal with this, up to and including deleting anything that Microsoft included with Windows that I didn't actually need, like the camera app on a PC with no camera. It quickly got to the point that I had to call IT to tell them my PC was becoming unusable due to disk space, and could they please do something about it, and suggested that because of this application, they might want to take this PC into management and give me a different one. I thought that they would do something like replace the computer. Identical would be fine, as long as it didn't have this application on it, or give it a larger internal disk, or maybe even just attach an external disk. I would still have a slow machine, but I'd have had the space to do my work. But they told me that I'd have to remove what I could and defrag the disk to make more space, and I would just have to suffer, and please don't call them about this again. I talked to my boss and was told that IT's word was final, and I would just have to deal with it. So it'd get bad. I'd remove what I could and start a defragment, and the machine would become too slow for me to use for about 24 hours, during which time I could do no work. This happened about once a week, so it took me about 1/5 of my time, not counting time spent looking for stuff to delete. I kept telling Manglement this was happening, and they kept telling me to shut up and deal with it. But at least when they wanted me to do stuff and it was, I can't. My computer is busy clearing disk space and is presently unusable. They moaned but understood and left me alone. So because IT was too lazy to do anything and management was too lazy to go to bat for me and the company was unwilling to spend $100 on an external hard drive, they got to spend over $22,000 a year on salary for me to sit around and wait for the machine to make some space so I could do my work. That wasn't my salary. That was the portion of my salary that they were wasting on this problem, not counting the value of the time of everyone else that had to do my work while I couldn't. Oh, and it was getting to the point that I wouldn't be able to deal with it at all. There wasn't anything left to delete, and defragging wasn't reclaiming any more space, and the company's internal software took up more and more space every day, and I estimated I had about a week left before it became fully unusable, when I had a heart attack and a stroke and never went back. I occasionally think, with admittedly some glee, of the panic it must have caused when they no doubt turned off the computer and sent it to IT to be wiped, and a few hours later, panicked users started calling, demanding to know where their precious application that they couldn't live without was, only for my evil Manglement to say, honestly, what application? Entitled Mom blames me for stealing 100,000 rupees from her. Some background info. My mom set up my bank account when I was about 15 so it would be connected to hers and she could have access to see all my transactions, available funds, etc. She would constantly message me asking what I was spending my own money on. She didn't even pay my allowance. It was my dad who had divorced her when I was young. So when I turned 18, I tried to get my account separated, but for reasons I can't remember, it didn't separate smoothly, and she was still able to see a lot of my transactions and funds. Also, this is definitely not the first time she has accused me of something completely irrational or unbelievable. So, majority of this happened over the course of last year, but it all started 2 years ago when my mother asked me to hold some money for her. I'm not sure what her reasoning was for it, but she decided that it would be better for her, at the time 18-year-old son, to hold over 300,000 rupees for her in this account as opposed to hers. I was a little skeptical at first as to why she would want me to hold her money, but she said I could keep the interest that was coming in, so I accepted it. Let's get into it. Cast. We've got me, and we've got my crazy mother. So entitled mom asked me to hold some money for her and to keep it in a savings account. She clearly trusted me, and I'd like to think that I'm responsible enough, smart enough, and trustworthy enough person to not steal from someone. Entitled mom clearly thought the opposite of me at a certain point, but we haven't reached there yet. So after about 8 months of me first receiving this money and holding in a savings account in my bank, entitled mom asked me to withdraw 100,000 rupees and send it to her, which I did. She got the money, and we all lived happily ever after for about another 14 or so months. That's when she asked me to withdraw the whole lot and send it over. Again, I did this without issue, and she received her money. But when she saw the amount, just over 200,000 rupees, she asked when the rest was coming in. Naturally confused, I asked her what rest she was talking about. She said that I had held 300,000 rupees for her, and I told her that she must not remember, but I had given her that partial amount previously. She clearly didn't remember. I tried my best to tell her, but she did not believe one word I had said and started accusing me of stealing from her and being deceitful. 100,000 rupees is a lot of money and could easily buy you a lot of nice things I definitely don't have. This whole argument turned into a 2-month-long fiasco, with me telling her multiple times to check her bank records to find it. I eventually had to go into a bank and ask for a statement from that time period to show her, and once I did, she did not even apologize or anything. This all ended a few months ago, and I've barely spoken to her since, let alone seen her, and I'm definitely considering just cutting ties with her. This is not the first time she's done something like this, and she's actually stolen from me multiple times in the past. Anyways, I know this hasn't been the most eventful story, but I hope it's given a bit of entertainment to those who've stuck around to read the whole thing. Has anyone ever accused you of stealing money? If so, what did you do about it? Please let us know. You still owe me $5, Reddit boy. What are you going to do? Sit on me? Okay. My parents used to own a laundromat, and every so often I would help them clean it up / collect the money. They had a seating area with a few benches for customers to sit on and a few magazines and kids' books to read, generally old stuff that was donated or from the dollar store. One day, we noticed that all the magazines and books were missing. Not a huge deal, as they were all months old and cheap books, and that happened every so often, so we just refilled the books and cleaned the machines. A few days later, it happened again. All the books were gone. Again, a bit frustrating, but not a big deal. We refilled them again and continued cleaning. But then it happened again a few days later, and a few days again after that. We were actually getting low on kids' books and had to buy some more from the dollar store. My dad and I finally take a look at the security cameras for the last few days, and we saw the same guy come in at about 1 p.m. He was short, bald, with a brown coat. He would walk in the front door, go straight to the back, grab all the books, put them in his coat, and then walk out. My dad was upset. He said he was going to take the day off work to wait for this guy and ask him to not come back. I told my dad I would do it, as this was a side business for him, and I wasn't working at the time. He told me to be stern, but to not hurt him or anything. I was there the next day between 12 to 2 p.m. Just before 1:30, I see him. Short, bald, brown coat. Our security cameras weren't the best, so I waited until I saw him grab the books before I walked over, just in case it was the wrong guy who just happened to look the same. But as soon as I saw him start to stuff them into his coat, I walked over. Excuse me. I'm a theater-trained actor, so it boomed a bit and made him jump. Please put those books back. He looked at me, and to be honest, he didn't look 100% there, but he understood that he had been caught. He spoke softly. I'm sorry. I just like looking at the pictures. I eased back a little. That's fine. You're more than welcome to look at them while doing your laundry, but you're not allowed to just come in here and take them. He put the books back on the table. I'm sorry, he repeated as he quickly walked out the door. He looked like he had just gotten the idea. I quickly cleaned up and headed home. We thought that would be the end of it, until the next day when everything was gone again. We checked the security cameras again, and it was him again. This time, my dad went on a Saturday and I saw the camera footage after. Basically the same, but my dad actually reached into his coat and took the magazines out. We didn't have audio, but I could tell he was yelling at him. My dad told me that he told him if it happened again, he was going to call the police, and then he asked to make sure the guy understood, which we saw him clearly nod on camera, so apparently he did, and my dad let him leave. A few days later, all the books were gone again, and the camera showed it was the same guy again. My dad actually took a few days off work, and we went all afternoon to the laundromat. We saw him come in once, and my dad yelled at him to leave, basically chasing him out with a broom. Again, telling him he's going to call the cops. Finally, the day came. My dad and I were there, as well as a regular customer. He was a farmer, about 300 pounds. My dad and I went to the restaurant a few stores over and picked up some takeout for lunch. On our way back, we saw the laundromat door close just as we left the restaurant. We didn't think much until we go in, and the guy was back, shoving the books into his coat. My dad lost it and charged at him, yelling about calling the police. He turned and looked at us, bolting for the door. I quickly blocked him, shoving him backwards. He tried to go a different way around a table, but the farmer was there blocking him.
Please, just let me leave,
he asked. But my dad, who was on the phone, said no, we've given him plenty of chances, and he's going to wait for the police. My dad and I are larger guys, and like I said, the farmer was pushing 300 pounds. He looked at us all and smugly said,
"You can't keep me here. What are you going to do? Sit on me?"
I heard the farmer say, "Okay," as he charged the guy, pushing him back onto the bench, and he sat right on top of him. The guy squirmed a little, but there wasn't much he could do. He yelled for help, but there was no one around but us. The police showed up and the farmer finally got up. The guy tried to run past the police, but they were able to catch him. Turns out he was known to police because he would steal small things from the other stores around there. He lived in a halfway house nearby, and one of the police who showed up was actually one of his mentors in his spare time. He asked us not to press charges, which my dad said he wouldn't, as long as he never came in here again. He agreed, and other than the odd time seeing him walking through the parking lot, he never actually did come back in again. We gave the farmer a free load of laundry as a thank you, and I like to think he taught that guy a valuable lesson. Don't mess with fat guys. Oh, my dad was telling me about his call to 911 afterwards. I wish I had a recording of it. He said they said, "911, what's the emergency?" And he said, "I caught someone stealing my coloring books." And the operator paused for a second and said, coloring books? Private property? Not to this Karen. Well, it finally happened. I ran into my first Karen. I'm a volunteer search and rescue canine handler, and my dogs are pit bulls. I've been an SAR for 11 years now and never really had much of an issue. Every once in a while, we come across someone who doesn't understand what we do, but after a few minutes of explaining it, people change their attitudes and even get excited because we allow them to follow us and see what we are doing. Yesterday, I was working my younger dog, who is almost ready to certify, but still has some minor issues we are training him on. We're working 20 acres of private property out of the 600 acres available to us. So my dog is off leash, has 3 collars on him, and is searching wonderfully. I'm watching my dog, and I can tell he has human scent. There's obvious body behavior you can see when a dog is on scent versus not. He's working around a large woodpile, about 100 yards from me, when he takes off over a ridgeline. A few minutes later, he comes back and jumps on me, which is how he tells me he has found someone. I start to follow him when I hear a lady yelling. By this time, my dog has come back again and told me again he found someone. Still running behind my dog, I come around a corner and there is a Karen in all her glory, swinging a hiking pole at my dog. I give my dog tons of praise. I mean, here's a lady screaming at him and waving a scary pole in his face, and he didn't care at all. He did his job very well. That's what I want to see in my dogs. Karen: "How dare you let your dog off leash?" Me: "Sorry ma'am, I'm with Search and Rescue, and we have permission to train our dogs off leash." "No, no dogs are allowed off leash. Your dog is dangerous." Me: "Ma'am, you are on private property. My dog is training to find missing people." Karen then whips out her phone and starts recording me. "You think this behavior is acceptable?" Me: "Yes, that is his job." Karen: "I I demand to speak to your supervisor. Well, how my team works is, we have senior members. We technically have one person in charge of the team, but we are considered supervisors and in charge of everything. We have full rights to speak on behalf of the team, dismiss people for dangerous behavior, make decisions, etc. Me. I am the supervisor. There is someone above you. Actually, no there isn't. I'm sorry you were upset, but what's happened is what my dog is supposed to do. Her. You should ask people before you let your dog run up to them. Me. You are trespassing on private property. You shouldn't be here. What's your name? Me. I am so lost again. Karen. Your last name? Me. You don't need that. Karen then turns to the two men that were with me and takes photos of them and my dog, who is still off leash, playing with his pink pig and laying in the snow. Karen. Do you approve of this? What are your names? Both guys shrugged and said, she's the one in charge. Then finally Karen huffed off yelling, and my dog got back to work to find the guy that was hidden 20 feet away from where this whole thing took place. Later, she ran into the rest of the senior members and had words about how my dog charged her, acted very aggressive, and how I gave him treats for that behavior. They also tried to explain it to her, and she told them to hush, and there was obviously something wrong with everyone on our team. Oh, and our dogs don't wear vests while working because where we are has tons of underbrush and some of our dogs have gotten seriously hurt wearing vests. We only use them on roadways or during firearms deer season. Am I the jerk for hanging up on my daughter when she called? I, 45, male, have been a single father to Jenny, 21, female, for most of all of her life. As soon as Jenny was born, her mother walked out on both of us, and I haven't heard from or seen her since. I tried to contact her, but after 5 years of fruitless searches, PIs, court dates, etc., I just gave up and decided that I was going to raise Jenny alone. I will admit that I wasn't the best father, working late nights, sleeping when I wasn't working, etc., but I did my best to provide for my daughter. Everything was going okay. Jenny was an average B+ student, played the flute, did basketball, until she went to high school. Long story short, she fell into a bad crowd and her life fell apart. She started staying out late every night. Her grades dropped to Fs, fighting back against me, etc. I cut back my hours at work to try and be more of a father to her, but she wouldn't have any of it. She said it was too late, and once she turned 18, she was moving out of the house and never coming back. I begged and pleaded for her to stay, that I care about her. I apologized for not being there more, but explained that I am human and truly want to make this work. She had none of it, and true to her word, at 18, she packed her bags and left. I tried to get in contact with her and even called her friends, but they didn't know or wouldn't tell me where she was. Again, the most important woman walked out of my life, and I was left there alone to pick up the pieces. The next 2 years were a black hole of depression. I barely had the strength to get out of bed most days, but that all changed when I met Dawn. Dawn was a new coworker, and we hit it off instantly. She listened, understood, and helped me pull myself out of my depression. We bought a house together 2 years ago, and we've been making it ever since. Luckily, lockdown has not affected us since we both can work from home, and Dawn told me a couple of weeks ago that she's pregnant. For the first time in my life, I am safe, secure, and I don't have to worry about the future. I can just focus on the present. That is, until last week. I received a call from Jenny, which surprised me because I changed my phone number. She said she was sorry for the way she acted and wanted to know if she could live with me. Apparently, when she left, she hooked up with her boyfriend and thought they would make a happy life together. Surprise, surprise, no high school education and a flaky boyfriend who cheats was not a smart idea. I told her that it was too late. I was finally happy with my current life and I didn't want to deal with her drama. She made her choices and she has to live with them. So I hung up the phone and blocked the number. I feel like I shouldn't have hung up on her like that, but I was still hurt she ran off. So, am I the jerk? Well, what do you think? Is OP the jerk or is Jenny? Please let us know. This is another one that I can't wait to hear what our audience thinks. No microwaves allowed, you say? Another post reminded me of this. This story is most of 2 decades old, so details are not precise. When I was in college, as many people do, I lived in a dorm. Now, my college had 3 different groups of dorms. One that was in the main set of buildings that was mostly seniors, one that was mostly sophomores and juniors, and one that was almost all freshmen. The freshman dorm area had beds that were fixed to the walls, desks fixed to the walls, and built-in bookcases. It also had one common room for about 150 students paired 2 to a room, and only 1 microwave in the common room. We weren't, ostensibly, allowed microwaves in the rooms. It makes sense. There were false fire alarms frequently from burnt popcorn in the lounge area. I can only imagine what horrors a bunch of 18-year-olds would concoct in their rooms if they were blithely allowed microwaves. Most people just went along with it while grumbling. But oh no, not me. I was complaining one day about the rule and how those of us who weren't idiots could handle a simple microwave. The RA overheard, laughed, and said I was welcome to try and find a way around it, but she had never found one. Being the nerd I am, though, I went and read the handbook in detail. On page 59 it said no microwaves, but literally page 60 it said any appliance under 1000 watts is allowed. So I found a microwave that was under that. Pathetic little thing at 500 watts, granted, in a Walmart ad. Took the ad and handbook to her boss, the residence life director. To her chagrin, she had to admit that any appliance under 1000 watts was allowed, and the handbook did say any appliance after all. She agreed to let me have my microwave as long as I didn't let the rest of the students in on this little trick. I agreed. You definitely haven't seen this video yet, so please come watch it next and we'll see you when you get there. And huge shout out to Clarity, our newest official channel member. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. Support our coffee addiction by joining as a channel member today, and we'll give you a special shout out in our next video. And to have us record any kind of special message you'd like us to, just come visit us on Fiverr. Link pinned in the comments below.